Hey Lily, since you bounced off Delicious in Dungeon, how about giving ReZero a try? Okay, go on. Well, it's an isekai about... Okay, stop going on. I'm gonna level with you, weeb. That entire genre's not for me. Okay, well, what about Madoka? It's a deconstruction of the magical girl genre. I'm pretty sure that genre's been deconstructed more than it's ever been played straight. It's officially entered the post-punk era. What else is there to say about it? Okay, well, what about Oromo? It's a satire of weeb culture. Okay, weeb, that was funny, but come on, be serious. Okay, well, what about A Place Further Than the Universe? What's that? That's a story about 4 girls going to Antarctica. What for? To experience life and have an adventure and maybe deal with grief. Well, that sounds delightful. Why do you never open with these? In my personal experience, the quality of an anime is an indirect proportion to how much people beg others to watch it. This isn't based on any scientific data, it's just based on the fact that I don't like shonen, or that genre that's just rom-coms for lonely men, and so that cuts off 90% of most anime that gets recommended to me. If you ask me what an S-tier anime is, I will show you these. Well, I guess that's a spoiler for the video, huh? See, the issue is that if you give a sweeping statement like, I don't like shonen, hardcore fans mentally append change my mind to the end of it. So they try to show you something that will lead into a domino effect of actually liking shonen. But my tastes were always different from other people my age and presumed gender. Like when I was a kid, everyone was watching Inuyasha and Naruto while I was sat spellbound by Cardcaptors, a show about a tomboy dressing up in Jester cosplay to collect tarot cards with the power of empathy. Yes, it did take me another 10 years to realize I was trans, what of it? To that end, nobody mentioned A Place Further Than the Universe at all. I actually saw it briefly mentioned at the end of a Jello Apocalypse video several years ago, but at that point it didn't have a dub and so I put it out of my mind. Then I saw it in a lineup of women-directed anime in another video essay just a few months ago and went, oh right, that one. Does that have a dub yet? And it did. And I just set up a new Plex server, so I finally got around to it. And it was the best show I'd seen in a long time. A 13-episode miniseries about 4 girls trying to go to Antarctica in order to have an adventure, make friends, and deal with their deep-seated inner pain, all while crying big fat tears the instant the music kicks in.
You mean the characters, right?
Anyway, A Place Further Than the Universe opens with Mari dreaming about being untethered and free before her mother wakes her up for school. How does she do this? Does she nudge her, yell her name, bang pots and pans? No, she waterboards her. She waterboards her own daughter. Fucking mother of the year right there. Mari is a contradiction of a person. She's a boring, timid girl who never does anything or goes anywhere, but she wants to get the most out of her youth because she doesn't want to reach adulthood never having done anything. I mean, she doesn't even have the spine to get on a train going to a random destination in her home city. This is the cause of anxiety for her because she's already in her 2nd year of high school and she hasn't done anything interesting with her life and is running out of time. Girl, you are 16. I don't know what TikTok has been telling you, but you're not out of your youth until you're 45. Then again, we all live in a decadent capitalist dystopia that will capture the vast majority of your time in adulthood. So you know what? Never mind. I think she's onto something. One thing that stands out to me about this show is the animation. Style-wise, it's nothing unique. Everyone's got that big-eyed toddler face that in most cases is probably the worst art style anime has ever adopted. But given that the entire show is about naive, wide-eyed wonder of the world around you, it actually looks good here. However, there is an interesting effect and everything has a gloss to it, with the characters all looking like they're lit from the back. Reminds me of Ren's art. She's really good at that shit. So I've established a connection between the animation and someone I love, and therefore the animation is good. I am a serious and objective critic. After failing to skip school to go to the beach in the rain, Mari bumps into someone in the subway who drops an envelope filled with
1 million yen.
Hang on a second. Gentle, sacred heart of Jesus, who the fuck's walking around with that much cash in an envelope? Have you ever heard of a fucking bank account? By random happenstance, Mari finds the girl at school crying in the bathroom about losing almost 10 grand. And imagine this from the girl's perspective. You drop 10 grand somewhere, you don't know where, and the girl who found it happens to be outside your stall while you're having your breakdown and just gives it back to you? That is fate, honey. This is a sign from the gods. That is fan fiction levels of inconvenience. Marry that girl. Or at least make her the maid of honor at your wedding. Anyway, the girl cries, grabs Mari, pulls her into a hug, and then cries harder. And this is the show. This is the whole show. Friends do nice things for each other, and they're all really fucking emotional about it because they're all emotionally damaged. So this girl, her name's Shiraze, by the way, has been saving up to go to Antarctica for a very long time because her mother went missing there, and her plan is to buy her way onto a civilian expedition by contributing to their funding. So Mari, after having just met this girl, is like, I'm in. I want to go to Antarctica too. Mari, who can't even skip school to go on a public transit joyride, is going to contribute to an expedition to fucking Antarctica. Go big or go home, I respect that. In order to help, Mari decides to get a job.
They're hiring high school girls. Says it's a hospitality job where you talk to boys and go on walks with them and stuff like that.
Okay, who wants to tell her? Later, she meets up with Shiraze and tells her that she hasn't found a job yet, but she's looking as hard as she...
Here, I found a gig for you.
Really?
Oh, in hospitality.
They'll hire high schoolers, and it's easy. All they want you to do is hang out with boys and walk with them.
Oh, for fuck's sake, do you idiots not Google anything? After talking to Megami, a friend she's had since she was little, Mari starts having her usual doubts and fear of failure out of some misguided belief that it's better to not go and wish she had than try to go and fail, which is a really weird leap of logic. It's almost like her friend is trying to sabotage her. Oh, but I'm sure I'm just talking crazy. You know, I'm told I have absolutely no media literacy. After being reassured by Shirazé, Mari gets a job at a 7-Eleven where they meet the third member of their group, Hinata, an upbeat, energetic girl who is down for whatever shenanigans are suggested in her vicinity. I'm pretty sure there's a factory that mass produces her. She had apparently been eavesdropping on their conversation beforehand, and since Mari showed up as her new co-worker, she decides it must be fate and now wants in because she has entrance exams in 2 years, and a lot of that time is going to be spent studying. So the three of them hatch a scheme to get invited to the expedition by seducing one of the men on the expedition. Oh no. What follows is an extended sequence of typical anime bullshit, where the storyboarders are clearly working through some issues before they get spotted by someone who recognized Shirazé and have to flee before they're caught. And they are inevitably caught. If you're like me and that kind of crap is an instant no exceptions deal breaker, then here's a pro tip. The moment Hinata asks Mari if she's 90, skip to 1658, and that's it. It's not a problem for the rest of the show. The two members of the expedition refuse to let her join because she's a child and send them on their way. The two regroup to plan another way of getting on the expedition before they're interrupted by another girl, Yuzuki. You know, when I was in high school, we had an exchange student with that name. Nice girl. Yuzuki's a famous streamer planted on the expedition to solve their funding issues. However, she doesn't want to go because her streaming career has sapped away her ability to make friends or even have a freaking childhood because she doesn't manage her own business. Instead, it's managed by her mother. Oh, thanks, show. That's the most horrifying thing I've ever heard. After making it clear she doesn't want to go, Yuzuki's mother makes a deal with Shirazé to convince her to go in exchange for making them part of Yuzuki's team. So they meet up with her the next day and take her out to dinner to ask her why she doesn't want to go, but Yuzuki sniffs them out almost instantly. But she relents anyway and tells them how lonely she is.
I've never even known anyone well enough to have an argument with them.
Well, fuck, that statement turned my understanding of arguments on their head. Mari tries to comfort her, but Yuzuki says she wouldn't get it since the three of them are all best friends, to which they all say, actually, we all met 2 weeks ago. We're all 4 strangers trying to get on the same boat. Later that night, Yuzuki is still thinking about what is apparently the first hug she's ever gotten. God damn, I know that feeling. But then she opens the window and finds all 3 of them on a ladder outside, yelling at her to come to Antarctica. And look, I do recaps like this so I don't get fucked by copyright, but I can't recap in a way that captures the utterly shameless sincerity on display here. This is melodrama upon melodrama, and I fucking love it. Yuzuki wakes up to find that it was all a dream, but the 3 girls are all knocking on her door. Since she has a job in Tokyo, they want to go out there with her to do dumb teenage stuff together. And the invitation to do friend things makes Yuzuki break down into tears, and oh my god, the fucking music, I swear. Okay, so there's a few tracks that basically plays during the 3rd act of every episode, right when things are getting at its most emotional, and fair warning, if you watch this show, you will be Pavlov to cry every time you hear it. The best part of it is everyone thinks they did something wrong.
Kimari! Me?
Seriously?
What did I do?
You made her cry.
How is it my fault? This was
You didn't come out like real girls crying.
Then the girls all go to a polar science museum in Tokyo and act like children, marveling at everything. It's wonderful. Yuzuki's never been happier. Aw, BBs. Now that they're all in the clear for Antarctica, all that's left is getting parental permission. So Mari has to go home and get her slip signed. However, her mother appears to be a shadow demon from the underworld because the entire scene is shot like a horror film as she and her sister try to gauge how she'll react. But it seems she already knows, and then her sister shuts her in the kitchen. You fucking traitor!
At least put down the weapon, please!
It isn't a weapon, it's a cooking utensil. Though I could use it to dish out something special to my idiot daughter.
Jeez, Mari, what the fuck is wrong with your mother?
Hello, I'm back
Dad,
from...
help me!
What the fuck? You just abandoned your daughter like that? You are a coward! The next day, she's talking with Meg about how she has to pass every single test if she wants to go, but Meg is oddly discouraging of the whole thing. I'm sure that won't come up soon. The 4 of them head off to training camp where they spend most of it learning how to find their way in a featureless white landscape. When they settle down for the night, Shirazé reveals she knew the captain of the expedition because her and her mother were really close in school and went on the same expedition together, but only Jin came home. Don't worry, I'm sure her mother is fine. Early the next morning, Mari encounters the captain who shows her an absolutely beautiful view of the sunrise. Then she wakes up her friends, they enjoy it as well, while that, oh god, the music's starting again. Again, I can't do justice for the heartfelt melodrama, you have to watch this for yourself. Next episode, they're all getting ready to leave, and for some reason being forced to announce it to the entire school.
Guess I just want to say I'll I'll do my best to be a good representative of our school.
The fuck does that mean? Nobody gives a shit about your school. Meg's watching all this happen and suddenly flashes back to when she and Mari were BBs and she showed Mari how to make, actually, what are they doing? I'm not sure. But being able to teach her makes Meg feel good about herself. I'm sure this won't come up again. Smash cut to the harbor where the four of them are filming ad copy for Yuzuki's show and Shiraze's having a meltdown over being about as natural on camera as plastic is in the ocean. Back home, Mari's trying to pack within the weight limit and failing horribly, and it takes her sister to strip out everything she doesn't actually need, like 17 English dictionaries and cookware. Now, to be fair, the English language is absolutely garbage, but since English is an amalgamation of words from every language, it's really the rest of the world's fault that it's like that. She finds a PlayStation that she borrowed from Meg and brings it back so the two of them can play together, but Meg is weirdly downbeat and pulls the plug before Mari can finish the game. I'm sure she's fine. Later, while talking to Meg, Mari is informed there are rumors her and the other girls were streetwalking to raise money for the trip. Shiraze's furious, while Hinata just shrugs it off, claiming that they can't really argue against it, and who really cares anyway, it's just teenagers spitting venom. And she's right. This kind of rumor mongering reeks of someone who's feeling like they don't do anything because they're seeing their peers do things, so they immediately try and tear that person down. I mean, they've been doing it to Shiraze for years. This is the kind of self-protective bullshit cycle that's making social media such an awful place to be, where people with no drive or willingness to embarrass themselves try to avoid the crushing existential dread by dunking on people who do have drive and a willingness to create and spreading rumors about them in order to crush their spirit. This is Mari's entire motivation. She doesn't want to be that person. She wants to do something. She doesn't want to sit around doing nothing and protecting her own ego. She doesn't want to be, well, Megami. There's ultimately no point in fighting the rumors because the people spreading the rumors won't listen even if you prove them wrong. They'll just double down. Then they burn out their frustration at a karaoke bar.
I am so glad I wasn't there.
On the walk home, Mari confesses to Meg that she's been dealing with self-loathing because of how clingy she is and how she makes Meg fuss over her. Meg having generally taken the role of mentor in their relationship. What Mari seems to be ignorant to, however, is that Meg loves being a mentor and loves fussing over Mari and is discouraging her at every moment to keep herself in that position because Mari is doing things with her life and Megami isn't. Lily, I think you're reading too much into that. No, she literally admits to it in the next scene! The next morning, on the day of her trip, Mari gets up to leave early for Tokyo, but is delayed very slightly because her sister is going to miss her and wants a hug.
Sis! Hey, why didn't you wake me up? I would have felt bad. It's early. I'm worried.
So this show has emotional sincerity to a cringeworthy degree, it's got girls enjoying life, and it's got siblings caring about each other. This is the best show ever made. All it's missing is something sapphic.
I came to break up.
Oh, well, not like that. It's actually a friend breakup, which is a concept I'm still not entirely sure I understand. Turns out that Megami was the one spreading the rumors about them and was the one who told Mari's mother because, well...
Because if I didn't have that, I didn't have anything. So I didn't want you to have anything either. I wanted to take it all away.
Mari tries at the last second to invite her on the trip. I mean, she desperately doesn't want to lose her best friend after all, but Meg walks away, so...
Breakup refused.
She can do that? Is that legal? The girls arrive at the airport. Shiraze's a nervous wreck, getting startled by customs and even the seatbelt sign. They have wacky hijinks on the plane, and Yuzuki has to shepherd them around like an exhausted single mother.
How'd it take that long just to make it to the hotel? Don't I don't know me, you buttheads!
They get in and realize the rooms have double beds, and immediately the other three draw straws to decide who has to sleep next to Mari, because apparently Mari's a snuggler. And hey, I get it, I love myself a good snuggle. But when I'm going to sleep, I have to shove my wife away because if you touch me, I will overheat and die. Then the girls go out and take a walking tour of the director's vacation pictures and get to be cringe goofball children and discover that restaurants work differently when you're in another country.
You sure this is oolong tea? That's what it says on the menu, at least.
Miso ramen?
I told you they're probably not gonna have any.
But why wouldn't they?
It's not a thing here.
Don't worry, girls. Look around long enough, you'll find a place that sells food for the homesick. I live in a city where cruise ships board, and there's tons of tourists looking for places to get food that's like home. And they sell everything. DoorDash in Halifax is fucking wild.
No way! You've been in it? Once, but it was for a photo shoot. You mean, like sexy bikini pics? You making fun of me?
Wait, were they?
No, gosh.
These girls have a single brain cell and Yuzuki always has it. Then they all have a moment at the top of the hotel where Mari gives a philosophical speech about object permanence. Look, it's a lot more enthralling in context. I think we've established I don't do this show justice. Mari's a really insightful girl. Anyway, then it turns out that Hinata lost her passport, and without it, she's stranded. Luckily, the embassy can issue a new one, but they have to wait until Monday, so they'll have to change flights. This is a point of anxiety for Shiraze, as they don't want to risk getting on the bad side of the expedition by not being exactly on time, but this seems to bother Hinata, who tells them to stick to the original plan and is weirdly evasive when pressed on the matter. Turns out that she's uncomfortable when people tiptoe around her because she is frequently talked about behind her back by people who won't say anything to her face. So she goes to extreme lengths to not be a burden and would rather be alone and thinks something's wrong with her. Aw, she just like me for real. Pretty much every character has an issue with loneliness in different forms. Shiraze puts up a wall around everyone and is singularly focused on finding her mother, while her stepmother is notoriously absent. Yuzuki's been worked to the bone by her mother and can't socialize because her fame gets in the way, and Hinata was bullied and self-isolates. Mari's about the only one who isn't isolated in some way, though she only has the one close friend before the story starts. She has a good relationship with her parents, mostly, and her sister adores her. She just wants to do something cool with her life before she's an adult and the death march of capitalism consumes her entire soul. Not in those exact words, obviously, but however, Shiraze pulls a fast one on Hinata and never shared this conversation with anyone, and they all left to change their tickets anyway. But when there isn't another flight available, Shiraze throws her entire savings down to get the flight changed, and for good reason. If it hadn't been for the others, she wouldn't have been able to go in the first place. Going solo only met her with failure, and most importantly, she loves her new friends. And that cracks through Hinata's lonely emo bullshit, so she spends all her money to get first class tickets. Hooray! Now are you ready for the third act plot twist that's gonna make you scream in anger? Because Hinata's passport was in Shiraze's purse the whole fucking time. God, that just fucking sucks. That's the biggest cosmic fuck you any of them could possibly be handed. That is hysterical. All that drama, all that emotional turbulence, and it was in your fucking purse the whole time. Just take a bow, screenwriter. That was mwah. Beautiful. For the crime of making them worry, Yuzuki and Mari make the two of them eat an entire durian. The girls make it to the ship and get acclimated to being on a ship. That line didn't scan. Multiple attempts are made to get Shiraze comfortable in front of a camera, but in the end they decide she's not cut out for it and make her sit behind the camera with shame stamped to her face. The crew is literally understaffed and the girls have to help load the ship, and it becomes clear there's something off about the entire expedition. There's another government-funded expedition running at the same time, and yet the entire crew is more determined than ever to go. It's clear to everyone that the entire expedition is about something Kanai isn't mentioning. And if you immediately click that they're looking for Takako, Shiraze's mother, and Jin's possible... hang on. girlfriend, you would be right. The ship and the station were given to Jin, Takako, and Kanai after they were replaced by the government, so they wanted to create a pathway for civilians to actually be able to go to Antarctica. But the expedition went Ocean Gate levels of wrong and their sponsors pulled out, so this time they're trying to go back to the place they discovered with their missing friend to get closure for her death. Oh, fuck you, that's not a spoiler. She went missing in Antarctica for 3 years. This is all the more obvious before they set off, where Kanai reminds everyone why they're here, and they all get very melancholy, and the fucking music again, I swear to God. Why are you hurting me like this? The ship sets sail and finally leaves dry land behind, and the girls flounder to do Yuzuki's web series, and are eventually put to work peeling potatoes. Ironically, Mari tried to bring a peeler earlier in the series, and her sister forced her not to. Then the four of them act like goofy kids through exercise, showering, dinner, and laundry duty. And it turns out that all of them are seasick. And it only gets worse when they hit the southern currents. Once they're through the currents, one of the crew approaches them and tells them that they're in love.
I'm in love! FBI, open up!
With the captain. Damn, dude, you're taking L's the entire show. First this shit.
Please keep in mind that they are underage. I repeat, underage. Toshio, did you get that?
Hey, why'd you single me out?
And now you set your eyes on the gayest woman alive? Man, you just can't catch a break. Despite it being a terrible idea to hit on a grieving widow, the girls all agree to help him because it'd be good for Yuzuki's show.
People act all highbrow, but everyone loves reality TV.
No, Yuzuki, don't. Drama YouTube is the worst YouTube. Back at the table, Shiraze tells the others that Jin was a friend of her mom's, who kept asking Jin to watch her when she was just a little BB, but she was too young to really grasp the situation. That was your stepmom, Shiraze. Despite the fact that her and Shiraze's mother were really close, Jin was never close with Shiraze, but is told in no uncertain terms, go talk to your kid, deadbeat. After the interview, they give their information to Sailor Hopeless, while Shiraze keeps flashing back to memories of Jin and her mother. But eventually, the two actually talk, with Jin's earlier worries that Shiraze hates her for getting her mother killed are alleviated. Shiraze doesn't hate Jin, as she's had a lot of time to accept that her mother isn't coming home. It's not exactly a reconciliation, but they're on stable ground, at least. The ship arrives at a glacier and powers through it, while Kanai Mari gives a history lesson about how, because of World War II, Japan was deliberately given a terrible, unreachable island with ice in the way to accessing it. So they built a big icebreaker and ran through it like a virgin on their wedding night. While they're doing that, Jin thinks back to how Takako died and her last words over the radio and starts crying. And the guy from earlier sees it, gives up, and immediately latches onto somebody else. Fucking rebound king. The ship stops briefly and the girls get out to step outside onto the icy shores of Antarctica for the first time. And we get probably the most triumphant part of the show. See, a few episodes prior, Shirazé said she'd rub it into the faces of everyone who doubted her when she got back.
No matter what we say now, they won't believe us. I'll say it after I've really gone. In your face. In your face. In your face.
Well, what's the first thing she says when she makes it there?
I bet your mom stood right here once.
In your face.
Huh?
In your face. In your face. In your face.
The girls make it to Antarctica and unpack into Showa Station, and to their delight, they get their own rooms in an unused residence building. They marvel over penguins, Shirazé is practically transfixed on one, and the others have to keep her from touching it. That is the most autistic thing I have ever seen an anime character do. Yuzuki confesses to getting a role in a drama, and how once they're back home, they won't have a lot of time to spend together. And the concept of, so people are busy, we'll make it work, is an alien notion to her. However, Yuzuki gets stuck on the fact that Mari said they were best friends, but she doesn't remember having that conversation, so she thinks she's out of the loop, and
I'm right, aren't I?
Please no! So it's just you three. Stop spiraling!
well, we all know someone like this. I married someone like this. Turns out Yuzuki's trust issues are trust issues, and she's caught in a feedback loop where she believes any attempt to make her feel better is just appeasement. But Mari's got it, apparently. We'll check back in with her later. And by later, I mean now, because Yuzuki drops a line during a Christmas celebration that seems to imply she's never had a birthday party. What the fuck is wrong with her mother? She then admits that she's taking the job when they get home and asks them all to sign a friendship contract. A fucking friendship What are you, Sheldon? Shirazé starts up with about how she's been alone before, but is cut off by Mari, who is utterly devastated by how much Yuzuki doesn't get friendship.
You don't get it, do you? Why don't you get it?
The tears, the hug, the shaking in her voice, that is Who Hurt You crying. Later at the Christmas dinner, everyone's enjoying a chicken feast and a missing line from the dub, apparently.
Nice cold.
Yeah, still frozen.
That doesn't make it right.
Yuzuki gets a lesson on friendship and how it's not something that has rules or contracts or clear delineations, which is ironic for this show.
Breakup refused.
Speaking of which, later Mari talks to Yuzuki about Megami, who she's not talking to a whole lot and doesn't text her back much after their sudden breakup and refusal, but about how she gets a little bit of joy just from seeing message read from her, and she reinforces that friendship isn't a clear and concrete thing. Then the others burst in and reveal that they'd made plans to celebrate Yuzuki's birthday since it happened while they were all sick, and oh god, she's gonna cry again. Yuzuki's issues with loneliness and not knowing how to navigate the minefields of a friendship are something I deeply sympathize with. Granted, her issues are from isolation, while mine are from abuse, but those are two paths to the same problem. Yuzuki is so isolated and her previous friendships are so shallow that she's never had her friends celebrate her birthday. Hell, I'm not sure if she even celebrates it at home. This poor baby, she doesn't deserve to be this lonely. Everyone's on this trip for something important, either intentionally, like Shirazé and Mari, or unintentionally, like Yuzuki and Hinata. And despite the grandiosity of a trip to Antarctica, it's all about the little pleasures that make life worth living. God, this show is so good. The next episode opens with everyone, including Mari's family, laughing at her goggle tan that looks like she spent the entire summer as a protagonist in the digital world. This is why I can't wear sunglasses in July, the same thing happens to me. Then a few friends of Hinata show up, but Hinata reacts extremely poorly, hits the camera, and leaves. Oh boy! I know whose turn it is for icy group therapy. Shirazé finds her outside screaming and violently assaulting the snow, but 10 seconds later she's just fine, or rather close to fine. Every time Shirazé tries to talk about things, Hinata blows her off. So Shirazé reads her mail and is immediately caught, and thus the confrontation is forced. There's only 13 episodes here, we don't have time to beat around the bush like a sapphic dominatrix. So Hinata tells her story, which is basically she upstaged some seniors and they got pissy about it and made her life a living hell until she had to drop out. So when the girls who sold her out showed up at the start, she was not pleased to see them. The reason she wanted to come to Antarctica is because she wanted to come to a place that was completely empty with no other people. Then they take a break to drink from a puddle. That evening, Shirazé and Hinata step outside and, well, let me just play it.
If someone treated me that way, then called me up out of the blue like nothing ever happened, trying to gloss over the permanent damage they'd done,
Hey, look, don't.
I couldn't just be okay with that. I couldn't just ignore it.
Oh, that That hit a little close to home. Hinata handles things differently, though. She's not concerned about old friends when she has newer, better friends here with her, but she also doesn't like long talks about their feelings and she just wants her friends nearby. Rather than confront them herself, Shirazé gives a big dramatic tongue lashing to Hinata's old classmates for all the garbage lying they did. And you bet your ass, the music's starting up again!
Those are the only options when you hurt someone. Especially if the person you hurt is one of my best friends!
This one hits way too close to home. I didn't expect Hinata, of all characters, to punch me right in the heart. The penultimate episode opens with a flashback to Shirazé in class, getting a message from her grandparents as they've learned of the death of Takako. It's time for the expedition to head out to the site of the observatory where Takako died. Shirazé's hesitant to go because the trip hasn't been what she was expecting. She was expecting to experience the same wonder her mother did, but instead it's just like looking at photos. Mari argues with her that her mother is waiting for her, and seriously? Mari, you can't be that you're on an Antarctic expedition. You're supposed to be brilliant. Shirazé sits down with Jin and they have to finally accept that Takako is dead. And again, I am not doing this moment the justice it deserves. Shirazé decides to join the inland expedition and they head off in the trucks. Clues start getting dropped as to exactly what happened to Takako, as it seems she got separated in a blizzard, and that was the last anyone saw of her. As a result, the team is a lot more aggressive about safety this time. During a blizzard that night, Mari and Shirazé have a heart-to-heart, and Shirazé writes her mother one last letter talking about how much her new friends mean to her. They make it to the observatory and realize it's named after Takako, and upon realizing what that means, the girls all rush inside. They're determined to find something of Takako that Shirazé can take home. They're determined to find proof she was even there at all. What they find is Takako's laptop. They take it back to Showa Station, where Shirazé opens it up to find that her mother still used Windows Vista. Like a cave woman. She opens up her email, and it's the first time it's been checked for new messages in a very long time, so it loads. Oh, you're kidding me. It loads every single letter that Shirazé sent to her over the last 3 years. All of them unread. Oh, I feel like I've been sucker punched in the stomach. I knew it was gonna be sad. I didn't realize it was gonna be that sad. The next episode, yes, it shifts that jarringly, is about the girls on watch duty, and they're being absolute tyrants to the adults. The expedition is rounding up and they're getting ready to leave, taking polar ice, eating polar ice, doing weird competitions in the snow. Shirazé's about to be kidnapped by an angry mob of penguins, so you know everyone's having a good time.
Cute and cuddly, boys. Cute and cuddly.
Mari has the last minute idea to stay in Antarctica, but that's not feasible, so they decide to all come back for the winter trip. Then they haul every single person out to play baseball. Then Shirazé gets a character development haircut. You know, I like how for the first time ever, the haircut has happened alongside the character development and not in place of it. Then they have a goodbye ceremony where Shirazé gives a big goodbye speech. The entire last episode here is one big denouement. It's a good denouement, especially when Shirazé gives Takako's laptop to Jin. The girls leave and Jin is left with Takako's emails, only to find that there's something in the outbox, and one last time the music gets me. Just as the girls are seeing the last broadcast in, they get to see the aurora overhead, especially since Mari was having a bad time over never getting to see it during the perpetual daylight in the Antarctic summer. Shirazé then gets the message that was in Takako's outbox, which is a photo of the aurora she took just before she died and tried to send it to her, saying the real thing is 10,000 times more beautiful. And Shirazé's sitting under it right now.
I know.
After the credits, the girls make it back home and go their separate ways, all agreeing to go on another journey someday. Yuzuki gets a rushing hug from her mother. Well, it's about damn time. Hinata finds that her boss has hung up all of her news broadcasts on the window. Mari is getting a welcome home party, and Shirazé built a small shrine to her mother. Mari messages Megumi to tell her she's home, only to hear that she went to the Arctic, and she sends a selfie. Aww. Oh, they're still friends. Oh, even that little relief punches me right in the heart. And that's it. That's the show. I've said this multiple times. My recap does not do the show justice. The dialogue is corny. The voice acting is over the top. Every single episode plays an uplifting and untranslated song right in the middle of some uplifting speech about perseverance. So if you have ADHD, you just get to go fuck yourself. And all the characters' big doe eyes get even doughier every time they get emotional, which is every 8 picoseconds. This is the corniest, cringiest, cheesiest, narmiest shit you will ever see in your stupid fucking life, and I am spellbound by every moment of it. The vibe of the entire show is replicating the seriousness with which teenagers treat things that an adult would consider inconsequential, almost dismissively so. Sure, Hinata's issues with bullying and rumors sounds like small potatoes if you're 30 and lost touch with your past self, but it's important to her. This is directly the case with Yuzuki. Her mother outright dismisses her daughter's own life and thinks of school as just a place for grades, shepherding her from one job to the next, so wrapped up in the capitalist grind that she's forgotten what it is that makes life worth worth living to her daughter's outright detriment. Yuzuki needs love and joy in her life. She's not a robot whose sole purpose is to pass tests and grind for money. You know, I'm sure there isn't any social commentary there. Shirase is grieving and needs closure for her mother's death, which is certainly a motivation that's important to anyone, and the only one she shares with the adult crew. The observatory is named in memory of Takako, so everyone on the crew wants to help finish it for that reason. But in doing so, she's left herself alone and isolated, and she never would have succeeded without the other girls. Hell, without the rest of the girls, the entire expedition would have been a morose and melancholy affair. But with them, everyone's lives remain just a little bit brighter. Hell, by the end, they're all so sad to see them leave. So there's a theme about coming out of closure and recovery with something else to live for that resonates with me in particular. Mari just wants to have an adventure and do something exciting with her life before the death march of capitalism claims all of her free time, which is the least traumatic or melancholy, but is just as important. A lot of young people feel like your life is over when you reach adulthood. When you're 15, you think life is over at 20. When you're in your 20s, you think life is over at 30. It's not a correct way to view the world, but it's a view held sincerely. It might not matter to you, but it matters to someone, therefore it matters. If you're incapable of getting into a story where you don't relate to the main characters, then all the intensity and drama and emotion might put you off. But I can get into anything that's sincere enough, so I was hanging on every moment. And this series made me cry several times. The third act music is gonna cause a Pavlov response. I just know. Oh god, don't play it now. The one loose thread is Megumi, who had been in a position of presumed authority over Mari for a long time, and doesn't want to give up that feeling of seniority. I talked to a few other people, and they were all mixed on the way she and Mari continue to be friends even after she admits what she'd done. But I think it's good for them, actually. When I was in my late teens, I found myself in a friend group where I was basically the only adult in the room, and honestly, it was terrible. The only people who think being the mom friend is cool are people who have never been the mom friend. It sucks, it's horrible, it makes you hate yourself. Hence Megumi, who hates herself and clings to being the mom friend for the only validation in her life. So getting all this out and trying to move into a world without Mari to mother is good for her, and good for Mari. It's Mari who concludes they don't have to stop being friends for that to happen. Mari was aware the whole time that their friendship had an unhealthy power disparity and wanted to fix it. So Megumi is confirming what she'd always suspected. Ultimately, Mari going on this trip and finally making good on her promise to herself is good for the both of them. It's just that she doesn't want to lose Megumi because she loves her. I've heard some claim that she was forgiven too easily, but I think that's just kind of part of being a teenager. As a teenager, I watched my sister have a friendship-destroying argument with her friends multiple times a month because they wouldn't obey her and she wanted control over people. And it never lasted very long because eventually she would have the crushing realization that the only person who actually liked her was her brother, and she was rapidly burning that goodwill away. So she'd go groveling back to them for a little while at least. I got in touch with one of them a while back and we were all hashing this out and having a laugh about it. So I've seen the absolute maximum of toxicity this exact situation could be, so I'm inclined to view Megumi more charitably because my perspective on the situation is just different. Granted, if you're like me, this show is difficult to watch because, like, you're gonna be emotionally overwhelmed and you might cry. And even if it's a good cry, it's gonna sap a lot of energy out of you. I first saw this was only 13 episodes and tried to hammer it out in an afternoon because I was expecting it to be like most modern cartoons where you could skip 7 episodes and miss absolutely nothing. And that was a bad call. I stopped at episode 9 and had to take a break and then restarted it again, watching it with friends at a much more sane pace. Nobody really talks about this, but this show emphasizes how dense the writing is. There's a lot to say and go over in every scene, and sometimes an episode would go through an entire 3-act structure and the progress bar shows it's only been 8 minutes. And that's impressive, especially since this is an anime, which means the opening and credits are about 3 times as long as they need to be. So they're cramming this into even less time. I've seen shows barely cover any material in a single episode or waffle for acts 1 and 2 before rushing through act 3. So seeing a show not do this is extremely refreshing. Hell, there are 80-hour video games that can spend their first 2 acts doing fucking nothing. A Place Further Than the Universe is a mini-series that is exactly as long as it needs to be. Everyone gets as much time as they need, even if that means Mari often seems to get the short end of the stick development-wise. She's the character that doesn't need a whole lot of it. What I appreciate most is that nothing is really a mystery in this show. You know right away that Takako is probably dead just because vanishing in Antarctica isn't something you really come back from. Hinata isn't even presumed to have anything wrong with her at first. Everyone just takes her at her word, and the characters, and by extension the viewer, only question it when Hinata herself starts behaving strangely, and it's immediately touched on when she does. Yuzuki is extremely straightforward. You know how child stars with parents as managers work at this point.
They're all bad.
They're also all different. Hinata in particular seems to eschew big grandiose displays of affection. She just wants people's presence. Meanwhile, Yuzuki is so socially deaf she tries to get people to sign a friendship agreement and has to be gently but firmly informed that that's weird. Navigating the unspoken nature of a friendship can often be difficult for people who aren't socially skilled. I mean, autistic people can attest to that. Yuzuki isn't autistic, but the issue is the same. 2 trains going to the same station. I love everything about this series. It captures the air of wonder that reminds me of when I was 10 exploring the woods around my neighborhood. Just seeing something and being like,
I want to go up there.
and then just doing it. I miss those days. They're the only thing about my childhood I really do miss. These days, I'm stuck at my desk making YouTube videos to pay rent for 6 hours a day, and when I'm done, I mostly stick to my surrounding neighborhood. Hell, there's a hiking trail with some beautiful sights that's not far from where I live, and I always say I'm gonna go hiking down it, but I never do because it's like an hour and a half both ways. Actually, fuck it. I'm gonna hike that damn trail like I used to do all the time. Yeah, it's not impressive, it's just a 3-hour trail, but damn it, I'm tired of saying I should do that one day, or I need to get around to that. I'm gonna do it. It's July 9th at time of writing. I'm gonna do it next week. Next Monday. Anyway, I got a hiking trip to prepare for. You guys should do something fun too.